Are you on your rank climb but just keep getting hard stuck at a certain elo? Is that elo hell? Are you simply not fixing some of your biggest mistakes? What is it that's holding you from reaching the higher rank that you want to achieve? So if you don't already know, I'm a top ranked player, consistently reaching top 500. I've been Ruby every season that it's been available, even peaked at rank 1 and tend to hover around the top 100s. And I still have a full-time job and I do all my own content creation, all my own editing. So the excuses of only jobless players have top 500, you have to be a meta slave to get Ruby. Well, you're just wrong. We've seen dual blades reach Ruby. We've seen MGL reach Ruby. I've seen solo queue off meta mediums, bow lights. There's an endless list of people who have reached top 500 that don't fit this criteria that a lot of people paint us as. And there really isn't any excuse I've heard that wasn't proven wrong by somebody out there achieving some sort of crazy top 500 accomplishment. I also do coach a lot of players privately and have done some public coaching on the channel here. So I'm very well aware of all elos and all the issues they have that really hold them back. There's plenty of patterns I've seen where each elo just seems to be missing something. So let's go over each rank and what the biggest issue I've seen within each are. Now there's 3 things before we get into this that I'm not going to mention, as I've never seen this be a reason for someone being stuck at a certain rank. Number 1 is hardware. I've seen laptop gamers reach top 10, console players again reaching top 10. I've seen the most scuffed mouse and mousepad combos rolling tournaments. As much as we love good specs and good quality peripherals, these won't be the reason why you're being stuck at a certain elo. So don't use that as an excuse. And number 2 is aim. Yes, surprisingly in a shooter, aim isn't that important. You don't have to sit in aim labs for 10 hours a day just to achieve the aim that somebody has. Good fundamentals is going to help you succeed, and learning some of the basics like crosshair placement and trigger discipline will help you, but you don't need to go in and start training in aim labs for a week just to climb to a higher rank. Having good principles and knowledge will carry you further than your aim ever will. I'd say you only need to start considering that around high Ruby and in tournaments, but having very good aim isn't really going to come into play until around them. Lastly, our third thing is solo queue versus 3 stacking. Sure, 3 stacking is easy, but again, won't be the reason you can't reach high elo. There are so many solo queue Rubies now that this just isn't an excuse anymore. So let's start with unranked players. So let's get right into unranked and what the difference is between that and bronze. You might be a quick cash warrior who hasn't dove into ranked yet. So all you need to do is overcome the fear of losing and the fear of having a bad rank. You'll never improve if you don't push yourself. You could play sniper on power shift just to farm clips for some montage, but you will never truly be good at the game if all you do is farm casuals. It's okay to be bronze. It's okay to be bad. As long as you want to improve, you will make progress. And again, it's okay to be a quick cash demon, but if that's all you ever wanted, I'm assuming you watched this video because you want to improve your rank. So let's start getting into our placements. And if we start at bronze, that's okay, because we're going to cover bronze next. So when I've coached bronze players in the past, the first time I saw it, it was like a whole new world. The biggest flaw I see is jumping into ranked without establishing a build or a loadout. The game requires you to play a lot of games before unlocking ranked. So use those VRs from the games that you had to unlock ranked to buy new gadgets and new weapons for the classes that you want to play. I recommend finding a meta loadout that you might find from your favorite streamers or your YouTubers. Start with that, just copy that loadout and then slowly shape it into something that suits you and your playstyle. I understand the appeal of creating your own loadout, but a lot of people start with that basic loadout that the game gives you, and that's just not that good. A lot of people fall into these bait picks like gas grenade and pyro. Things that can damage your teammates is always a bad pick when you are newer to the game. Mines fall into this category, as well as enemies can trigger your mines, hurting both you and your team. So I'm not telling you to just play the meta. What I'm telling you is that the starting loadout, until you start to figure out the game, you're best off copying somebody who is much more knowledgeable at the game and who is playing a meta loadout, and then you can shape that into what suits you, rather than just mix and matching a bunch of stuff that you think the game is telling you to pick, like pyronades and stuff like that. Another big thing is being more cautious. We will get more specific in future ranks, but as a baseline, bronze players seem to go full force into fights, or they just completely avoid them. Be cautious of wasting time and be cautious of going headfirst into fights. Playing off your team will help you so much here. Try to stick with your team. Now for silver players, you got out of bronze, and your skill is slowly getting tested a bit more. You're probably seeing some more organized players, and people might understand their loadouts a bit more here, if only just a little bit. You're going to want to start to learn the basics of macro and how the game mode works. Some basic math to understand would be the values of cash outs and vaults. So let me give you a list of some of the cash values here. Kills are 500, tapping a vault is 1,000, plugging or inserting a cash box is 20% of the cash box value. Now cash boxes 1 to 2 are 10K, cash box 3 and 4 are 15, cash box 5 and 6 are 22K. Now whenever your team wipes, you lose 15% of your total cash. Now these are the values for ranked, and these values are very important to keep in mind, especially near the end, as your win condition is going to vary. You might need to split the boxes, you might need to double it up, or you might need to just simply prevent one of the cash boxes from even being tapped or inserted. There's plenty of ways to succeed in the finals, so doing math is a big gap to understand, but knowing when to do this or when to do that is going to be a big thing to learn. As a general rule of thumb, you never want to double cash boxes 1 through 4. No matter if you're first, last, second, third, your odds of winning are going to be about 25% to win that cash show if you are doubling. And whoever wins that can essentially guarantee themselves. So while that might seem good in theory, this actually means you have less of a chance of winning overall that round. And a lot of this comes down to RNG, and you lose a little bit of control over the game. This is a big gamble that is never in your favor. Only rarely does it make sense, but in general, try to avoid doubling early cash boxes unless you really know what you're doing. Outside of objective and cash-oriented tips, for silver players, you'll want to start getting in the habit of checking the scoreboard before every round, seeing what teams you are facing, and try to avoid bringing in gadgets or weapons that might not be ideal based on your matchup. Make sure your team is well balanced. Try to avoid team comps such as triple heavy, double heavy light, or double light heavy. While you can win with some of these, it's just not going to be very easy. It requires a little bit more nuance and understanding of the classes to run some of these more off-meta team compositions. Ideally, you want to have at least one medium on every team comp, so if you're unsure what class to learn, medium is probably the way to go. So we've reached gold, and games are probably looking a little bit more normal. There's one issue that we're running into a lot. Sure, we may be a little bit more organized, playing with our team a little bit more. Basic understanding of objective is probably there, but we fight way too long. This is a simple term called resetting, which is going to be a massive thing gold players struggle with. Basically, across the board, every gold player I've coached runs into this issue of fighting for far too long. And that's because when one player gets caught out, very often the rest of the players try to take their one fights. They might try to reset that one player, but not reset as a team. We just end up in this cycle of reviving, one person dying, and then it just kind of repeats over and over again for like 3 minutes. I've seen cash boxes 5 and 6 not even get inserted because fights took forever in matches. The way to fix this is to stick together. As a team, you need to fully push fights together, and when you lose a fight or an engagement, you need to either commit to fully die, or you fully retreat and reset. Grab bodies, run away, revive, and wait until you're a group of 3 before pushing in again. Now, obviously, if you have a lot of money, you might not want to die, so it might be worth running away and just allowing your team to coin, and then you reset that way. As a solo player, you will want to stick with your team and play with them. Whatever they do, you need to assist in it. Using your voice to communicate some sort of strategy might be a good way to organize it. Running off on your own to chase a separate fight, or being baited chasing that dash light until you're halfway across the map is just bad. Make sure fights are ending faster, because while you fight for 3 minutes, that one other team is just getting the objective for free. The next thing that I need a lot of gold players to start to do is to think ahead. And you can do this because you've reached a point of basic understanding. You have good understanding of the objective. Maybe you start to understand loadouts a little bit better. So you can plan ahead. Instead of standing, waiting around, start getting ahead of the plan. When you tap vault, set up gateways, set up zip lines, jump pads, goo. Start getting ready to move the cash out. Maybe after you plug, instead of just standing around waiting for something to happen, Start setting up defenses, move gas canisters to the point, place gateways above the point, set up barricades so that your team can defend from a specific location, place mines on the point. Whatever you have in your loadout to help you one step ahead of whatever you're currently doing is going to be a massive game changer for golds. Maybe you realize the cash out stations are so far from the vault, so instead of going to the vault, just go to the station and wait for your enemies to bring the box to you. Instead of just running to the vault and then you end up being behind the enemies as they run ahead and then they set up before you. So if you start to learn all those things, maybe you're going to end up reaching platinum. For the players that have finished their placement games and still pushed forward with a couple of victories and who have a good understanding of the game, you're going to end up somewhere around platinum. And now while you have some good insight on how the game is played and how other people are going to be playing, you probably lack the mentality to stay level-headed at times. This doesn't mean you're raging, but you probably overlook a lot of things and you don't learn from them. Maybe you refuse to swap gadgets to counter enemies. You see there's a bunch of heavies in a lobby but refuse to bring glitch grenade. There's probably a lot of basic stuff you know that you're ignoring, and you probably start to blame a lot of your losses, or when fights go wrong, you're going to blame it on your teammates rather than yourself. This is the phase of ranked where you need to start focusing on where you can improve. Everyone will be different depending on the class and the loadout that you bring, but some common mistakes that I see are bad pathing for fights. So instead of taking a fight head on, even though you have pretty good aim, you should start taking fights from high ground. You're going to have a higher success rate when you're pathing to a higher ground, to a building, rather than just right out in the open. Start thinking about how to win your fights. And when you lose your fights, consider where your enemies killed you from and try to learn from that. Find better angles, even take red barrels to open up different areas for the fight. You need to start using the environment a little bit here as well, because you could get initiation damage with certain barrels. Maybe you need to knock down cranes that the enemies are using. Just stop walking straight in a line to your death and utilize the environment as much as you can. Position a lot better. You need to start taking your game sense to the next level to reach diamond. Communication is going to be a big thing for platinum players. In lower elos, having a mic is a huge difference, don't get me wrong, but in platinum, you need to work on your communication even more. Call out low HP targets, tell your team to reset, and retreat when it's needed. Communicate your intentions, whether it be to engage, play for objective, stall, wait for an opportunity, third party, etc., etc. There are so many things in the finals, and communication is key to help you and your team succeed more. The more coordinated your team is, the more success you're going to have. And if you don't have a mic, try using pings to the best of your abilities and type when needed. And if you're on console and you can't see the text, getting a mic is pretty cheap and it is a pretty big boost to your success. So we've reached diamond now, the stepping stone between the top 500 players and those who are pretty dang good. So how do we get ruby and how do we get that juicy red reward at the end of each season? So this is where you're going to need to lock in. Mistakes will be punished a lot. So the biggest tip is to play more calculated. Stop taking so many risks. Stop just mindlessly going in. Make sure that your team is on board with your decisions and try to eliminate all your mistakes. The more mistakes you make, the more they will be punished because diamond players will take advantage of all your mistakes. So it's going to be quite easy to notice when you mess up. With all the understandings that you've developed, reviewing your own gameplay is going to be a pretty useful tip here. And you can do this in game. You don't even have to record your gameplay. However, I do recommend recording your gameplay and watching it back, but you need to work on removing those mistakes. So after your death, consider what you could have done better while you're waiting to respawn or get revived. But you need to start working on making the best decision rather than just the first decision. It's okay to play a little bit slower in diamond. Give yourself time to weigh all the options and make the best decision. The more you get in the habit of thinking ahead of your actions, the better you will become at making the right decision faster. It's a simple tip, but a massive game changer. It's not always about being as fast as you can, but making the best decision. Once you start analyzing a lot of these situations, the right decision is going to come faster, and that is when we're going to start to reach those ruby ranks. Start learning new tech is going to be something that is going to go for all players in general, but whether it's a basic combo of goo and jump pad, or maybe gateway combo with the jump pad, start learning new tactics and apply it in game. We're constantly learning new strategies. So watch top players, ask them questions, try to implement as many new techs as you can, and this will elevate your gameplay so much. The more strategies and the more combinations of gadgets that you understand, the more that you can apply in your game and adapt to every situation. Sometimes that small little combination of a jump pad plus goo might be the difference between you winning and losing in such a high elo. Well, maybe you are in top 500 and you've gotten the ruby, but you still want to improve. Maybe you just kind of keep edging around top 500, but you want to secure yourself in top 100 or something like that. So the best tip I have is to watch your own gameplay and watch top players that stream and post YouTube videos almost as much as you play the game. If you don't watch others, you won't learn new things. If you don't watch your own gameplay, you won't notice your own flaws. You'll end up being stuck in a rut of not improving. Try your best to polish your gameplay once you're here. Trying some tournaments out, maybe even getting in some scrims or pugs is also a really good way to push your skill, as you're going to be playing against some of the best players in the game, and they will punish you for all your mistakes, so you will not be able to make as many there. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I do a mix of gameplay, educational, and general tips for the finals. Thank you to all my members. Comment below what rank you are at and what your goal rank is. Hopefully you can come back to this video after you've reached a higher rank. Remember, even if you've reached a high rank, never forget the basics, and I will see you in the finals.